We're going to have Rachel Dohring with us, and she is the daughter of Liz and Sid Doyle. Liz is the director of She Leads Michigan, and she has been an evangelist across this country and across the world in, I think, like 6 continents and I don't know how many countries throughout the last years. And we are so thankful that we can talk to Rachel as her daughter and to give us an idea of what life was like back in England, which was where she was born, and coming to the United States and all of that story and her journey with God. So we're grateful to have Rachel with us this morning. So Rachel Dohring, can we get her on the screen? Wow, that awesome tech group. One is your mom. Good morning or good afternoon, Rachel. How are you?
I don't know what day it is, what time it is. Who knows?
Oh, I know. I think most of us would just soon kind of find a corner to drool in for a while. We're just kind of run over with all the activities and all the excitement, right?
And all the chocolate and all the this is a mess.
I know. You kind of like step over the pile and do the next immediate thing, right? There's a good New Year's resolution. Find the floor.
Yeah.
Well, we're really glad that you were willing to take time out in the middle of all of these things to talk a little bit about your life and your journey with God. And so thank you so much, Rachel, for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot. This journey has been long. I may be young, but I'm old in my journey. I'm not really that young anymore either.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one that thinks that.
Yeah.
we kind of age but it gets us to maturity, right?
Yes.
And we realize that each emergency is not the end.
No, that's right.
And that's a huge thing. I think that's what I used to, I would respect about older people is that, they would have this calmness about them that reflected the number of emergencies they had had in their life, the ups and downs and backwards things, and still to have a faith in God that gives them such a peace would be inspiring for me, even if they didn't put it in words. It was, their demeanor, their spirit that made me think, I think I could make it too. And even though this seems pretty hairy, right?
Yeah. I hear you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were actually born in England.
Yeah,
right?
Born in William Harvey Hospital, Ashford, Kent, England, the southeast part, in 1983. And I was born and raised there till I was 15. Moved here when I was about 15.
Oh, okay. Wow. So all of your formative years were in England, and that's where your beautiful English accent comes from.
Yeah, it's really strange growing up. My mum had an American accent, my dad had an Irish accent, and Josh and my brother, Josh and I didn't know any different.
Sure.
But we could imitate all their accents, but we just didn't pick up theirs. We spoke like all of our friends and teachers, and so but my friends at school, they always thought, wow, you've got an American mom, like a movie star. Yeah, they always thought it was really cool that my mom had an American accent.
Wow, that's so cool. What great variety. And yeah. And then, so what did you think when they said you were moving to America?
Yeah. So Josh and I grew up there. My parents were pastors of a really prominent church, the biggest evangelical church in our area. Now, in saying that, it was only 350, 400 people, but that was huge compared to the norm. Over there, churches were completely dead. People were either religious or most of them were atheists or agnostic, just didn't care, didn't believe in anything. So the school I grew up in, there's a handful of Christians and one Jehovah's Witness, and that was about it. So we got persecuted on a minor level our whole for our whole lives as far as kids, and that was just expected. Bible bashers and just called names all the time. It was just the undertone of what was to expect when you're a Christian. So my parents, being the pastor and the pastor's wife, they would drive the church bus around a lot, and I'd get dropped off at school in the church bus. So everybody knew Ashford Christian Fellowship. I was so embarrassed because it was just on loudspeaker, and it wasn't, America. When I came here, I realized everybody goes to church. Everybody, even 20 years ago, it was just a lot different than it is now, where everyone considers themselves a Christian, or they respect God and Christmas for what it is. But yeah, growing up over there, that wasn't the culture. So we really stuck together. Our youth group, we were each other's family, and the whole church, really. We did holidays together. We did everything together, ministry together. Our youth group was kind of our safe haven. So we really were really close. Every weekend, just doing life together, because the school just wasn't where it was safe to be. Yeah. And other kids who are other Christians in our community would get together, and it was just it was difficult, but our church was so strong and so thriving, and my little community group of friends was really solid, and I love them with all my heart. So when we were going to be moving, that was really difficult for me as far as socially. It was really difficult to fit in here. And for a good 2 years, I really hated it. I really missed home, and I really had a difficult time. But it brought me closer to my parents. I didn't really fit in here. We moved to North Carolina originally. My parents put me in a Christian school to get me used to the education system. And Christians were different than the Christians I knew. They, not all of them, obviously, but on the general, it was just kids who had parents who were Christians, and they were wealthier and went to the Christian school, and I don't know, just wasn't my scene. Yeah. So I spent a lot more time with my parents, go to the cinema with them on the weekends, and I didn't really have many close friends. That was really difficult.
Yeah, well, I'm sure too. You had gone through persecution and had grown up in the faith more than kids that had lived within the Christian quote unquote bubble kind of thing. Yeah. And you were forced to go to a deeper level with God.
Yeah, I think the second year we moved, that we were in the country, my parents put me in a public school. I just requested to leave that school, and it was much better. I found more authentic people. I got involved in sports and things like that. But I think just initially it was difficult. They had a really good youth group, but I think it was just a mixture of the different culture and missing all my friends, and
yes, a lot of transition.
I was always an outside, like. And but then I was raised an outsider because of my beliefs, but then I didn't have anywhere safe to go. So it was just tricky.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very, very hard. I moved a lot as a child too, all within the United States, but it did the same thing for me, realizing that other friends are going to come and go, but my parents kind of stayed the same.
Yeah.
That was a mooring for me, even though there were so many other transitions going on. So yeah, that's cool. So how did life go once after you got out of high school?
Yeah, so then I went back to England for a year to do ministry with my church. But before that, when I was in that difficult time, I had met a guy. He was a youth intern in a youth group. He'd come over from California, really outgoing, really positive. And he was involved in drama and the arts, and that's where my passion was too, in singing. And we met and connected and became really, really good friends. And then I left for England for a year to do ministry, and then I came back and did Bible college in Canada. But during that time we actually dated. So we dated for long distance for 3 years, but in that time span we were with each other physically 5-6 months spaced in between.
Yeah.
So then he and I actually got married when I was 19. I came back to America and we got married very, very young. That's kind of what happened next. The next chapter.
Yes.
Yeah,
those things happen.
Yep.
And so that marriage was kind of difficult, had a lot of challenges and struggles, and kind of ended up with a divorce and a daughter, correct?
Yeah, my little miracle lifeline. She was everything to me in that dark time, and it's really hard still. We got married 2003, so it's a long time ago, but it's still difficult looking back on it and understanding, reasoning with what happened and kind of my sin and his part, and but seeing what a beautiful girl that came out of it and what a blessing she is. And even still now she asks questions about it. She's 12 now, so she still asks questions today. And I was just reading, I've just started reading the Bible chronologically this morning, and we just started Job. So all of his suffering and looking at his suffering and everything he's gone through, and the Bible really never answers why he suffered. But what I learn is that Job's story is so much more of telling who God is and who his character is and how he's omnipresent, he's omniscient, he's always in control. He knows ahead what's going to happen, what every trial is going to play out, and how it's going to shape Job and mold him into who he's going to be. And ultimately Job's life is a picture of who God is. And through everything I've been through, that's what I pray, that my life story is just pointing to God and giving him glory and honor. And so when we always weigh all the details out, everything, that's those things aren't what God's trying to communicate through our lives and through everything we go through. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what's going to happen as a result of our choices. And but ultimately he's going to get the glory, and our relationship is going to grow so much closer. Because when you grew up in the church as a kid, you take it for granted so much. Even through the trials that I withstood, I still didn't really understand God's grace and mercy and his love. And it wasn't until it became real in my life situation that my relationship with him really deepened on a personal level. I remember giving my life to the Lord when I was 4 years old. I remember that moment really clearly in my mum and dad's bedroom after school, after Sunday school one day. And so that becomes kind of your anchor as a kid and going through life. But it doesn't really become like the real core foundation until something is shaking you and throwing you out of the boat. So that's kind of what happened through that divorce.
Yeah. God doesn't explain everything, and we have to give up our understanding.
Yeah.
And really, like you said, and focus on him and who he really is and how perfect and loving and almighty he is, that he takes us where we are and came to save us, not just for salvation and going to heaven, but he saves us every day in different ways. And he wants to do that for us, right?
I know. And I mean, there's one moment that really, when I was going through everything and the dark that I was going through, and there was a moment in my life when it was really dark for a few years, but I didn't share with anyone. I didn't tell anybody what was going on. And then I finally had come to the end of what I could handle by myself. And I had called my mum on the phone and sort of broke the news to her what had been happening. And because I was so reluctant, because like you said, my parents were always there for me, and I never wanted to let them down. I never wanted to upset them, because they were always so good and raised me to be such a good person. So I knew what my parents thought about divorce. I know their expectations. So I couldn't share with them what was going on, honestly, because I didn't want to hurt them. And I asked my mum, I said, if I tell you this, I don't want you to hate me. And she said, oh, what is it? What is it? And I shared with her. And she said, Rachel, I love you now more than ever before.
Aw,
And
I'm sure that was 100% true.
So
Absolutely.
that was just to feel that love, that unconditional love.
Yes.
Was really overwhelming coming from my mom. And that's when it hit me, God's love is it's not punish, it's not to make us feel bad or guilty.
No.
It's to draw us back to him for the best life that he has.
Absolutely. I know that was not an easy call to make. Like you said, you wanted to be perfect. And none of us is perfect.
No.
And you wanted, because you loved your parents so much, you didn't want to disappoint them. And that it just shows such a huge a glory to God that and that your parents were living the message of God's unconditional love in your life. And exactly that was your picture of how God was feeling toward you at the same time. And you were just so shut down, steeling yourself to try to get through all these situations and be perfect, which is completely impossible. But we all try that in different ways. And realizing that we can't do that, that we do need help, that we want to reach out. And I'm sure that started turning your heart more deeply to God as well.
Absolutely. One thing, as a teenager, people would say, oh, Christianity is just a crutch. It's just something, to fall back on. And it's like, well, when you're broken, you need a crutch. I needed something because I'm a broken person. So thank God that I have Jesus.
I know. And we're all broken.
Christians are the most broken people there are.
Yeah.
Just be open about it, and that we're not trying to cover it and fix it. Like, that was when I realized honestly who I was and what I was capable of, and who God was and what he was capable of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the worst virus is not corona, it's sin.
Yeah.
We all have it, and churches are really hospitals with a bunch of sick people coming together and learning about God and learning how to help each other.
Amen. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Wow, that is cool. So you this year you at your church, you're a part of the Unite Community Church in Ypsilanti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you helped with a church plant there, you and your husband now in helping with the worship there. And one of the songs that you sang this year is called Make Room. Where did you find that song?
Yeah, so actually, so Chad and I, my husband, we're worship leaders, and how we don't even like the term worship leader. We're more worshipers, and I don't even know, we don't have a title for ourselves because I don't like worship leader, but we're the ones who orchestrate the band and get them together and to lead the usher the congregation into God's presence. But we are really big on team leadership. So one of the bass players actually brought that song to our attention. And I mean, the instant I heard it, I felt God's presence so strongly. And it's just, yeah, making room for the Lord. It's the lyrics are really, really simple, and you'll hear it. But we heard this song, and now that we're doing video recordings of the church service, we're trying to find ways to not entertain our church, because when you are accustomed to using a phone to watch your church service or watch it on TV, you're automatically conditioned to be set into entertainment mode, and we're really trying to blast through that and be engaging and empowering. So I was trying to think, how can we really set the tone for this song, get people's minds and hearts ready? So we got it on camera, but it was a very candid moment. I just spoke to the band about what this song represented and meant, and then we went straight into the song. The band had played and practiced this song individually, but it was the first take that we did, and it went amazingly well. Really felt the presence of the Lord, and that's the take that we used. We didn't stop. We didn't. It's just how it rolled out and how it happened, and as a result, when we posted that, other people shared it, and it really got a great great feedback and a great rapport, and as a result of that, the actual writer of this song got in touch with us. He is based in Chicago at he's Community Music. The name of his group is Community Music, and that's Lucas and Evelyn Cortazio. But they actually want to write with us and collaborate with us on some music, which is really cool. So just well, the Lord just does amazing things. But that's one thing that happened as a result of just us posting this really cool song. So
that is so cool. I know it is an anointed song, and you sense the depth of the message of Christmas and of every one of our journeys as we think about the Christ child. So we want to play that for our audience now, and we hope you all feel the same way as you hear this beautiful rendition of Make Room.
Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Oh, I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Down every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. Oh, I will make room for you. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing. This is my surrender.
Wow, that is so powerful. And I love the way you sat down when you said that, as well as your co-leader, and then to have other women in the background, and occasionally a male voice, like kind of the Joseph feeling. It was very moving, very moving. I know a lot of those things probably kind of happened, but it is the heart of Christmas, isn't it? That Mary was most highly favored when the angel came to talk to her, and that was her reaction, full surrender, and willingness to do what God wanted her to do. And as she thought that through, it was harder and harder to do in her culture, in the reaction of her fiance and the full community. It was a very, very hard choice to be highly favored. And she had to make room first. And that is such a great example for all of us. We are not going to understand everything, but we do want to be fully surrendered to let the Lord have His way. Because it is a beautiful way, even though we don't understand it at the time, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you came back home with your parents' support, and then what was your next step?
Yeah, my mom sat me down and said, you know, what is it you want to do? Your life is an open road. What is it you want to pursue? We'll help you with Kyla. And at the time she was 2 years old. So do you want to go back to school? What is it that you want to do? And I had no idea. And I said, well, I've always really enjoyed watching people lead fitness, like exercise instructors. I always thought that was really fun. I've always loved fitness. And I thought, well, I don't know how I would do that. And my parents knew, they had mutual friends of a Christian gym in Adrian in Lenawee County. And they said, well, why don't we just ask questions, see what we can do, see who we can meet. And I went to that place. I met the boss, the exercise gym manager, and he walked me through what I needed to do to become a personal trainer, exercise instructor. And in the meantime, I was volunteering hours there. Basically, I became the head of the ladies' gym there. And then another friend approached me and said they saw an article in the newspaper for the YMCA. They were looking for a health and wellness director. It required a college education, and I hadn't been to college. And I just thought, oh, I don't think I can do that. But I'd been praying to be able to find a way to support my daughter and myself doing exercise instruction. And the YMCA was a great outlet, because I thought, man, there's kids' classes there my daughter could be involved in whilst I was working. It was the end of it was entering into December when I went. I just thought, I'm just going to go interview. Lord, I'm going to pray for your favor. I don't know what I know I don't have the qualifications, but I'll see what happens. And they were really desperate for the new year coming in. They were going to be getting all these new enrollees coming out and new programs and all these new members coming in. So I went and interviewed for it, and basically she said, I've never done this before, but I'm going to offer you the job here on the spot. We'd love to have you be a part of the team. And I could not believe it. And I salary with benefits, full-time job. She said, I know you don't have the college degree, but you have the personality and everything you need to, you'll learn what you need to learn. Basically, let's go for it. And
Wow,
and I just thought, man, this is totally favored from the Lord. I'm going to dedicate this to you, Jesus, from the beginning. All my classes, I want it to be well known that I'm a believer. And from my very first day, I had a call from one of our exercise instructors who couldn't come into work because she was sick. So from the front office, I said, well, can I pray with you? I believe you could be healed. And I prayed with her on the phone. She said, nobody's ever done that before. And thank you so much. And I just had, my whole mentality was, I'm going to be a servant leader and I'm going to go in. What is it that my staff needs? I'm going to go and clean their equipment, do whatever it takes to serve them. I'd never been a boss of a staff of 18 people before, but I just I'm just gonna do this. And Lord, I'm gonna pray before every class. I had my stretch exercise classes, I'd play Christian music, and I just wanted I wanted God to give God the glory throughout the whole time I was there. And then that led into more open doors. That's where I met Michelle, actually. We were both on the board, the community board for Lenawee County Health and Wellness. And that branched out into other community jobs and opportunities. And it was completely incredible. And what the Lord did in that chapter of my life.
So yeah. God timed your interview at the YMCA with the Battle of the Bulge of January, right?
Yes.
They needed you. That was perfect.
I know. It really worked out well.
Wow. So cool. So you, in this video, we had your husband, Chad, in there. What is that story?
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have? Okay. So I had, I was living with my parents this entire time. I was, after my divorce, I was single for 6 years, but I would date here and there. And I got into online dating because in Blissfield, where we lived, it was just a tiny village surrounded by cornfields and farmers, and no one I was really struck my fancy. Yeah. And so I thought, how am I honestly I would like to move into getting to know somebody, and to start online dating. And in my mind, I had, my criteria was I wanted a single man who didn't have any kids, because I didn't want Kyla to have to deal with any extra added drama. And a businessman into fitness. I had all this all criteria. So these are the types of people I dated, and they tended to be younger than me, a few years younger, because they didn't have kids, and it went well. But then I just thought, oh my goodness, this isn't that. I would date for about 2-3 months, and then I'd figure out, oh, this is not, especially with the kid thing, them not having children and not understanding that dynamic. And so one day I was just in the kitchen with my mum, and I said, Mum, I really want to date a worship leader, like a musician. Maybe because I was a worship leader at my church, and I just said that. I didn't pray about it. I just had said it out loud to her. Mm-hmm. And literally a week later, I got a message in my message box and it said, on the message, there was no picture from the person, but it said, hello, my name's Chad, and I'm a worship leader at a big church in Detroit. I apologize for my profile. There's no pictures. There's nothing on here, because I realized once I got on this website that there's a bunch of ladies from my church, and I don't want them to message me, and I just wanted to kind of stay like incognito. But I saw your profile, and I really was interested. And I found myself entering my credit card information just to message you. I know that sounds cheesy, but this is true. And basically, we had a lot of the same music interests. And on my profile, I was really clear about how charismatic I was and bold. Because even on Christian online dating sites, some weird people just sneak in there and they just try to snatch up girls, and they pretend they're Christians, and it's not true. So I was saying how devout I was to scare off all the,
Right.
warm Christians. And so I was really bold about my faith. And so he contacted me, and he said, sorry, I don't have any pictures. If you want to check me out, if you're interested, you can go to my Facebook page. So I went to his Facebook page, and he's got dreadlocks and piercings. And I thought I'd never have dated anyone with dreadlocks before. I showed my mum. I was like, Mum, this guy's a worship leader. Look. And I showed him, and she's like, well, that's different. And she was, really nice about it. And basically, we went out on a date, and we stuck it together ever since. He has 2 children, and 2 girls, and that wasn't what I had pictured. And that was kind of a bump we went through our dating, because I didn't have any expectation. I didn't know how to be a stepmom. That's still really difficult today. That wasn't what I thought that was going to be best for me and Kyla. So kind of milling through that, and basically we dated for from dating to marriage was 10 months, and he proposed after about 7 months, and that was 2017. So that will be 4 years this March.
Wow.
And then he's a worship leader, and we're pursuing the Lord together, and we're doing ministry together, and it's really exciting. And he's the love of my life, and we it's a big messy situation with the kids and everything, but we're getting through it, and I couldn't be more thankful for everything that he does, and that's where we are now.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you learn, I guess, through a lot of things that you're not going to understand everything, and you think you know what you want, but God knows better what fits us, how He wants to grow us, to know more about Him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is such a beautiful story. Isn't that something, how something came out of your mouth and then it showed up on your phone?
Yeah.
That's often the way God does things. He kind of tells us what we think, and we didn't really put it into words that much. And then He answers it so directly that are like, wait a minute, I can't ignore that.
Yeah.
That all kind of connects, right?
Yeah.
And when you look back on it, you say, oh, how much does He love me to do it like that?
The details.
Yeah. Sometimes the tiny things can mean more than the grand.
Yeah.
It's just and at different times in your life, that little tiny thing feels so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a beautiful story. So now you guys are in ministry and in music and in worship together, and you're doing work for the Lord. Do you have a blog too?
Well, personally, when all this COVID hit, I have a podcast. Well, it hasn't launched yet.
Okay.
When March of last year, I was trying to be creative with all these ideas, what to do with the kids. And I started listening to podcasts for my devotionals. And I thought, man, there's got to be a podcast for middle school, tweens, Kyla's age. And there was nothing. There was so many for teenagers, but there was nothing for kind of Bible teaching and a fun, with a fun aspect that was for tweens. So I thought, you know what? I think me and Kyla should do something about this. So we just started a podcast called Going Against the Flow. And it's all about, because my major frustration right now in this generation is how fixated they are on their phones and social media, how social media's motive is to just get them addicted to scrolling and comparison at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then there's all this perverse sex that comes in that you don't know as parents, and all these, like on the TikTok, all the sites is just disgusting, corrupt world coming in through their phones. And so I refused, Kyla, to have a phone. And I thought, this is insane. You're not going to be on social media, none of this. And I was strong against it. Then sending her back to school this year, she's in 7th grade, and I had to call the school one day to let her. She had forgotten her running stuff or something for track, and I needed to get her a message. So I called the office. The lady office says she doesn't have a phone. I said, no, she doesn't have a phone. A 12-year-old doesn't need a $600, $700 phone. Can you please relay this message to her? And I just thought because they take it for granted that these 10, 11-year-old kids are having these phones now. Mm-hmm. I thought, oh my goodness. So then I thought, what am I going to do about this? Because this is the world she's in. I can't just not have, like, she is in the world but not part of the world. But basically my end thought was that technology itself isn't morally, or it is morally neutral. Right. So it can be used to corrupt, or it can also be a tool to teach and promote good lessons for our kids, to lead moral and faithful lives. And media can isolate us from one another, but it also effectively can bring us together. And so it's a matter of mastering media and figuring out and teaching our kids how to be leaders in this light, rather than being sucked in and corrupted. So my podcast of Going Against the Flow, it's talking all about things that they're tackling right now, about friendships, about boys, about the last one was about manners, and it's just all these basic concepts, but it's all ties into social media, because that is what the world is right now. Mm-hmm. So one of our hypothetical situations is an 11-year-old girl has just been given a phone, and basically one girl these two girls were best friends growing up. One's been given a phone, one hasn't been allowed to have a phone. The one who's given a phone now just thinks she's the bomb and is always on her phone and always in these sites, and so the other girl's being left out. So should the mother compromise and buy this other girl a phone just so that she can be involved? Now, these are the type of situations that we talk about. And I grabbed Kyla. It's me and Kyla hosting this podcast. So it's from a 12-year-old's perspective. Perfect. And my perspective. Yeah. And she's so funny. And the things she says when we talk about Bible verses, like we were talking in the friendship episode, we were talking about how to spur one another on, and what a spur is. And she said, so does that mean you have to kick someone to get like all these just things? Is how they think, because this is how they think, because you're communicating to these lessons to a child that's not yet a teen, but you're talking to them expecting them to understand. Right. But so to hear her honest back and forth between, it's just so funny, and we have so much fun doing it. So that's the next kind of venture that we're on.
Well, that is such a beautiful principle of either being overwhelmed with the world and how it envelops us and crushes our children, our families, or to say, you know what, God is big enough to redeem this.
Yeah.
And the medium is neutral. He has an even better way to show us how to conquer it in a God-honoring way.
Yeah.
And that is such a story of courage and faith in God, and a way to build your relationship, strengthen your connection, and give your daughter ways to feel stronger in the middle of all that peer pressure. She feels your presence with her, as well as the Lord, right? So that is so great. I also heard you were doing something about reading the Bible chronologically. Did you mention that earlier?
Hold on. This is Kyla. Say hi.
Hey, Greta. Hi. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming on. Congratulations on your major cool podcast.
Thank you. She said
That's
thank you.
great.
She's in the middle of school. Yeah, so my friend just approached me at the beginning or 3 months ago and said she was going to read the Bible chronologically this year. And I've always, in the back of my mind, I've always thought I'd like to read the Bible through for a year. They have all these plans and everything. But then when she said chronologically, I thought that really kind of struck my interest. But in tandem with that, there's a podcast that goes with it. And it's called Bible Recap. And the lady gives you, it's a 9 to 11 minute recap of what you've read that day. So we have a plan that we're reading, but there's also this podcast to kind of tie it all together and let you know how everything's linked together. And so I thought, oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
And so I just posted it on my Facebook that this is something I was interested in. And it was just me and Ashley doing it, and I think her small group. And then literally 60 people said, we want to do it too. This sounds great. So we've got a big group going in YouVersion. And the lady whose podcast it is called Tara Lee Cobble. It's called the Bible Recap. She's read this chronologically through 12 times. Whoa. And she decided to do a podcast. And this is I think the second or third year that that she's actually going through with people. And it was in the top 10 podcasts last year, the popularity, how huge it was. So far it's going really, really well. It's really simple. And it just gives you the plan of what to read. She gives you the recap, and then there's all of us are giving our talk it over points about how we feel God's character is communicated through what we read today. Yeah. So it's really effective. It's really great having a community with you. That accountability aspect is so powerful, especially with anything, exercise, Bible reading, having a group there with you. So my plan every day, and so far it's been great. We're only on January 3rd or 4th. I wake up in the morning, I do my Bible reading, and then I listen to the podcast as I'm doing my exercise. So I've got the Bible reading the first day, and then I'll go on a run. Then the second day I'll do the Bible reading and I'll do a strength. And then the third day I'll do Bible reading and I give my body a break. And keep going. Got very small goals right now, because last year was just there were no goals. There was nothing. It was just poop. So I thought I'm just gonna go slow. And so far it's going wonderfully well.
Oh, that is great. Everybody feels that way.
Yes.
Exactly as you described. It was the COVID-19 and it was 19 pounds.
Yeah, I know.
It was like, what is life as a blob, right? Because everybody felt like they were being dragged around by something outside of their control.
I know.
Yeah. That is such a great way. If other people listening would like to get involved in that, how would they do that?
Yeah, if you just friend me on Facebook, then I'll join you. We've got a Facebook group going just for accountability's sake. And then I'll plug you into the YouVersion plan that we're doing. So it's not too late to start. I just had another person just start today as well. But the podcasting is really effective, because now you can listen to the Bible. Somebody can read the Bible to you, and then you just switch that on in the car or wherever you're going, and you've got your plan. You've got it done for that day. And it's getting that check mark is really gratifying that you checked it off for the day.
Well, it's so cool that you have this passion for physical fitness and figured out how to do that, how to encourage other people in that, how to develop a system. And you're taking on worship and giving people a way to incorporate the physical discipline with the spiritual discipline. Because I forget who was Timothy that said, physical exercise is good, but spiritual exercise is better. And sharing of them is the ultimate kind.
Oh, correct. Yes, absolutely. I just found a running partner like a month ago, and she's completely in sync with me with that, because it's we're supposed to be, our body's a temple. We're looking after our body, spirit, body, and soul. So that emotional health is huge, and then our physical health and our spiritual health. And so once you've got that packed away, there's like nothing better.
No, that is such a
every level.
Yeah. God is glorified through all of that.
Yes.
And nobody likes discipline, but that is what gives us stability, helps center us, makes us ready for all of the uncontrollable things of even a single day. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Rachel, the last song we want to play is of your rendition of "I Heard the Bells." You guys did an arrangement of that for Christmas, and you're going to be producing a recording for Christmas next year, possibly with different pieces that you develop throughout the year in the Christmas season. But that is a great way for us to finish and seeing the hope of God in every situation.
Amen. Yeah, the bells actually on this recording you'll hear at the beginning and the end. That's the same chimes that I listened to as a kid in our Anglican church. That goes ding 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 ding. So it was kind of reminiscent of my growing up in England. And then lastly, we are actually going to work on our own independent album as a worship album as a church. So we're working towards that Christmas album, but we want to put out some independent music too this year. So
wow, that is a big thing too. So glorious. Thank you so much, Rachel, for taking time to talk to us. Your story will inspire so many people, and every one of us can identify with all the different things that you've described in stages and seasons of our own lives, our journey away from and toward God. You are just such an example of God's work and such an honest faith journey person that inspires us all. Thank you so much for your authenticity and your love of God, Rachel, and for letting us see him better today.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play. Wild and sweet, the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. We need peace on earth. Holy Spirit, breathe on us. We need peace on earth. Holy Spirit, breathe on us. In despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. For hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. We